Okay, so we're continuing on our focus on takedowns, and specifically ones that are simple, efficient, low energy, doesn't take a whole lot of like drilled skill to hit. There's a lot of great takedowns out there that if you're a specialist, you can get super good at. But if you aren't a specialist, and most people doing jiu-jitsu aren't because we just don't spend a lot of time on our feet to practice, you'd rather gravitate towards those takedowns that, again, take less effort. They're quick, dirty, you can do them when you're tired, those types of ones, okay? Before we get to the actual techniques here, I want to actually cover like the anatomy of what a takedown is, what the actual objective of the takedown is. So obviously it's taking somebody from standing to the ground, but how that happens is super important, and it applies to every type of takedown. So if you know in your mind how to affect what you're trying to affect, no matter which way of taking them down you're doing it, it will aid in your completion. So the way I think about it is you break the human body into 3 segments or pieces. The legs are the structure that holds my body up, okay? Think of the balance that they hold as like a circle that goes around each foot. The wider it gets, the wider my balance is, the larger the circle is, the smaller it gets, the smaller the circle is. But that circle is what holds my balance, the rest of my body off the ground. The hips, this is your center of balance, okay? This is the second one. This is the most important. This is the connection between the upper and the lower body. And if you can get the hips outside the circle of your feet, you're going to make them lose balance, okay? Most takedowns involve either taking the hips outside the circle or taking the circle out from under the hips, okay? That's primarily what takedowns are, is just move their hips to a position where their legs can no longer support them, or move their legs to a position that no longer supports the hips. Does that make sense? The last section is from the hips up, the torso, the body, all of that, okay? This can be used to basically drag the hips outside the circle. If I was to lean forward, they start coming outside the circle. If I was to lean backwards, they start falling outside the circle. So you can toy with the top to make them try to, overcommit or push them into an empty void where their feet can't follow. And that's another way to affect a takedown. So all of these tricks of moving somebody from the standing position to the ground have to do with moving their hips outside of their balance point. Simple enough? All right, if you can keep that in mind while we're doing our takedowns, no matter where you're at, just think of the hips. Where are they in regards or in relation to what's keeping them up, being their legs and that circle that's keeping their structure off the ground, and you'll find a way to drag it outside of that zone and down they come. Cool? All right. So the first one we're going to look at here, actually a series we're going to look at, is going to involve an entry to a body lock. And this is a position that I don't think it's utilized enough. People who like to use like the shots where they come in and take the legs generally try to take those legs out from under the hips, but they don't really have an option if that fails. And a lot of times, again, if you're not a specialist, it fails. You get stuffed, you get squished, you get stuck in an awkward position. We're going to move it up to the body lock position. If I can borrow Leo here. You can either do this from a failed shot where I came in and he's just got so much pressure on me right here. I'm going to come up to the hips and stand right here. This is one way to get to the body lock position. Or the way that I prefer is to use the shot to get to the body lock. Instead of coming for the legs with the shot, I'm going to come down and come up right here to grab basically at that center of balance, the hips. I'm clasping my hands together, and all of our techniques tonight are going to have to use the head on the inside. Head on the outside or on the rear. It's different techniques, lots of good techniques there, but we're going to focus on ones where we've got the head in the center of mass. So let's just start by working that entry where we're out of range, okay, there's no grips at all. We're going to lower our height 50% through our knees, touch our front knee to the ground, come in, and instead of going for the legs, this leg's going to step and lift my body off the ground to connect to the hips right here. Head to the chest. Simple? Okay, let's start with that. 1, 2, 3.